It was 1954. Dr. Benjamin Orndorff looked out over the crowd assembled to celebrate the 30th anniversary of the American College of Radiology. Friends and colleagues of the past 3 decades, men like Albert Soyland, George Failer, Walter Wasson, Edwin Ernst, were passing from the scene. They had seen it all. From the earliest days of radiology, when, as young Turks, they charted unknown terrain, literally taking their lives in their hands to map the contours of the human body, bringing order to a new frontier, establishing the American College of Radiology, taking the course of history in their hands as they shaped a profession. Now, in the twilight of their lives, they gathered to preserve the memory of that bold time when, for the first time, doctors could see beyond their own powers. Memories of the early days of radiology united its elder statesmen. They met for dinner each year, taking as their talisman a venerable gas tube, a reminder of just how far radiology had come since the early days of the century.
Controlling the temperamental vacuum in these old gas tubes of various shapes and makes sometimes required weeks of baking or nursing with low currents. Dr. Edwin Ernst.
The gas tube was a fitting symbol. Individual and highly charged, the 3 core members of what would become the gas tube gang, Eddie Ernst, Wally Wasson, and Ben Orndorff, would cajole, badger, and convince their fellow radiologists into preserving the history of the profession. In 1955, following Dr. Orndorff's remarks at ACR's 30th anniversary, these pioneers gathered for the first time as the gas tube gang. The death of Dr. George E. Failer of Philadelphia, ACR's first president, reminded the early leaders that time was fleeting. If they were to keep alive the spirit of those exhilarating years, they needed to act, and act quickly, to preserve their heritage.
My very earliest experience was in the physical laboratory at the university, when a professor of physics had developed the equipment for producing X-rays, and a local physician brought in a young man who had sustained a possible fracture of the forearm. I helped in the production of the film, which showed a fracture very clearly. This was in 1902. Dr. Benjamin Orndorff.
Just 7 years before, in 1895, Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen had discovered the X-ray. A year after Röntgen's discovery, the first medical use of X-rays was recorded in the United States. The technology was powerful and little controlled.
In Chicago, X-ray production was in the hands of experimenters who were working with apparatus in their homes, generally in the basement. And the busy practicing physicians were interested but reluctant to undertake the technical understanding and management of making X-ray examinations. Those who undertook the technical side were certainly not the physicians and surgeons whose reputation and activities were rated at the top of the profession. The group who did undertake those technical aspects formed organizations of their own and became known as practitioners of electrotherapy. Dr. Benjamin Orndorff.
World War I presented a great need and a great opportunity for radiology. The gas tube gang's wartime experiences would resonate throughout their lives. Ed Ernst saw service with the Washington University Base Hospital, Unit 21 from St. Louis.
Using a table built by German prisoners and the rolling floor fluoroscopic gas tube on 2 exposures on a single X-ray glass plate, I obtained a record of the exact locations of the bullet fragments. I also sterilized instruments for removing bullets under fluoroscopic visualization. Dr. Edwin Ernst.
The challenges of war required new thinking. Radiology took great strides in those rugged field hospitals, and the radiologists who served their country in war sought to serve it in peacetime as well. It was clear that the new specialty needed a national presence.
Our country had just passed through a global war, and all nations were being engulfed in a struggle for readjustment. By good fortune, I was present as one of the 21 physicians assembled in San Francisco in 1923 to organize a College of Radiology. Dr. Benjamin Orndorff.
The college would lead the profession through years of dramatic change. It brought order to a young specialty in the 1920s.
The International Radiological Congress helped to standardize measurement, and the college worked to secure financing of the X-ray department at the Bureau of Standards. Dr. Edwin Ernst.
The Great Depression brought unprecedented suffering across the United States. Patients could not afford medical care. Although Franklin D. Roosevelt's election promised better financial times, his New Deal also threatened radiology. The ACR went to Washington, organizing in support of the profession. When America entered World War II, radiologists mobilized to serve their country. The college volunteered to handle radiology manpower issues for the Army. A 4-week training class helped transform general practitioners into assistant radiologists for the war effort. The growth and development of radiology after World War II paralleled the post-war growth of the nation. But the fear of nuclear war gripped Cold War America. Radiologists reassured their communities. They shared their knowledge of protection, safety, and treatment for radiation exposure. As pioneer radiologists witnessed the vast changes in technology during their lifetimes, they realized that preserving their own history was critical to help the next generation understand its role.
The Gas Tube Gang is determined to collect historical material concerning radiology. It would seem imperative to catch what we can before those minds that hold it disappear, and those that hold it pass it on to persons unappreciative of its value. Dr. R.R. Newell.
In November 1961, the Gas Tube Gang formally incorporated as the National Council for Radiological Heritage. By 1964, the council had collected more than 350 books, 10,000 documents, and 30 pieces of early equipment. As the world changed around them, the Gas Tube Gang sought lessons from the past.
Developments now surrounding the laser beam may well be where high-voltage radiotherapy was after 1920. I recall so well when a very prominent radiologist said that Grube, O'Brien, and others in Chicago were talking about the treatment of cancer with X-ray. What a pity both of you do not have the time and the convenient facilities for putting down in detail, while your memories remain clear, your experiences when X-ray therapy for cancer was in its infancy. Orndorff to Ernst and Wasson.
They marshaled the forces of additional pioneers, 300 initially, who led the way in radiology during the 20s and 30s. Thanks to the work of these pioneers, the heritage of early radiologists lives on today in the spirit of fellowship and pride among ACR members. Although modern developments in radiology could not have been imagined by the Gas Tube Gang, telemedicine, radiation oncology, CT, MRI, nuclear medicine, ultrasound, one constant would still be familiar to them: the American College of Radiology. Today, the American College of Radiology ensures that the accomplishments and contributions of radiologists continue to grow. As we have for 75 years, we will continue to support and strengthen our specialty. As ACR sets the standard for radiological care, it is fulfilling its founders' highest hopes. The professional image of radiology as a key medical specialty, accreditation programs, performance standards, appropriateness criteria, continuing education, life-saving research through clinical trials, a voice in shaping Medicare and insurance coverage, and above all, protecting the public from harm, disease, and injury. Eddie, Wally, and Ben, the Gas Tube Gang, would be very proud.